Well, several Carolina Hurricanes prospects had outstanding months in February, including the Chicago Wolves trio, Felix Sorum, Bradly Nadeau, and Justin Robidas, as well as a couple of Russian prospects, 2025 draftee Ivan Ryabkin and goalie Yegor Velmakin. Joining me as always to discuss the top 5 prospects of the month and what to expect in the coming month, as well as his most recent 16 thoughts. I'm delighted to welcome in from Canes Prospects, Nick Bass. Hi there, Nick.
Hello.
Hey, Nick. A good month in February. As I mentioned, the Chicago Wolves trio continued their fine play. We had Ivan Ryabkin heading to Charlottetown and showing that he can really light it up there. So I thought we'd start with number 5, and that is Ivan Ryabkin. Ryabkin in February he played 6 games. He scored 3 goals, 7 assists for 10 points. Darren York said something interesting about Ryabkin at the draft. I thought I'd share it. He had a strong underage season in Russia, goes to Muskegon this past season, got in there late, but basically an unbelievable goal scorer with bite to his game. He drives to the net. He can hit you. He can take hits. He can score off the wrist shot, off the one-timer. He can make plays in tight. And he said, we're really excited to get him in the second round. We didn't think he'd be available. What did we see with Ivan in February?
He's kind of just taken over Charlottetown. He's been really unbelievably good. He's been on their top line. He's been their number 1 center for the past, ever since he got there, basically. He's just been really good. He's playmaking's really evident. The shot is there. And it is really cool to see Charlottetown really buy into Ryabkin, even though this is probably only a 1-year thing.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to just see him on a lot of their playoff, promotions and stuff like that. And Ivan's just been really, really good in the queue, which is a good sign for things to come.
Well, and a couple of interesting things. So far to date, he's played 20 games. He's got 13 goals, 29 assists. So he's lighting up, as you say. And I just noted that he was Rookie of the Month for March in the Quebec Major Junior League as well. So he's not only getting attention in Charlottetown, he's getting it right around the league, which is great. Okay, let's move on to someone we talk about virtually every month, understandably, because he just keeps doing it, and that's Bradly Nadeau. Nadeau, of course, he's won a lot of awards this year. He was AHL Player of the Week twice. He was AHL Player of the Month in January. He shot that 103-mile-an-hour blast at the All-Star Week, which is kind of fun. And he's doing great. One thing I wanted to mention here from the Canes, they said he brings a high-level shot to the Canes' bottom 6 with a variety of releases that are equally deadly. But he's not just a shooter. Nadeau is also a strong playmaker who pre-scans for lanes and actively engages defenders to make his passes deceptive. So they're talking about not only that wicked shot, but some great setup work as well. What did you see with Bradly?
It's very evident right now to see how important he is to the Wolves lineup. He's been out the past few games, and they've had some difficulties scoring, and it's kind of evident that he is a good amount of the offense. And it was kind of the same thing last year, but it's a little more apparent right now. But yeah, he had a pretty good February. There's really not much for him to prove left at the AHL level. He's kind of shown that, he's a pretty complete offensive player. The defense has improved, and it's kind of just a matter of time at this point for him to get a real shot. But I'm excited to see him hopefully be back in time for the playoffs for the Wolves.
Well, what is his current injury status?
He has an upper body injury. It's not a concussion, but it's just an upper body injury. I thought he would be back this weekend, but didn't happen. So I wonder about maybe this upcoming weekend by Saturday maybe, or they are just going to be really cautious with it.
Yeah, and you had mentioned, again, that he was trying to hit that 30-goal mark, and it looks like that's going to be a little bit elusive. Of course, he's missed several games this year with call-ups and now injuries, so not a surprise. Hey, interesting news on his brother today, and I thought we'd just touch on that for a minute, and that's Josh Nadeau, of course. Josh signing a 1-year deal with Laval, the Laval Rocket, which is the farm team of course, the Montreal Canadiens. What do you think about that signing?
I think it's good for Laval. I was really bullish on him and his NHL potential. That there's probably a time where he's going to be an NHL player down the line. Um, I would still say Bradley's better. There's a lot of things that Bradley does that Josh just can't really do. But at the same point, Josh is very good in his own right at
Right.
offensive. Like I'd probably say he's a good play. He's a good playmaker. The skating's pretty good. He's a. I would. There's just a lot of all around qualities that make Josh a really solid pro player, and I'm glad that he did get signed. I'm a little disappointed it wasn't the Canes, obviously, but I am pretty happy with. I'm happy for him because it's going to be a big moment in his career.
Yeah, with a number of players signing from the NCAA, as their seasons wind up, if they're not going to be playing further this year, we know that they're becoming available in some cases, and he was a free agent, of course. And he had such a tremendous year when he was working alongside Bradley. I thought, man, wouldn't it be fun to have those guys together with the Wolves? But unfortunately, not to be. In any case, great news for Josh as well. Okay, let's move on to number three. He's a goaltender you've talked about before, and that's Yegor Velmakin. Velmakin has had a great February. He played 5 games, 1.6 goals against, and 9.52 save percentage. So he's been on fire playing with Dynamo St. Petersburg in the VHL. What are you seeing with Igor?
Yeah, it was a good month. He kind of took over the starting role down the stretch toward playoff time, even though Dynamo St. Petersburg didn't make it.
Okay.
There was a lot of good starts. There was a few kind of bad ones toward the very end, but it was still a very good month of February for him. And now that we've hit March and Dynamo St. Petersburg season is over, kind of just gonna figure out what's gonna happen from there. But overall, it was a really solid February for him.
No, that's great. And Darren York had said this about him. He said, we were impressed with how his season went when they drafted him. He said he got a little better each and every game. The kid, we were happy to get here at the end. So he was drafted way late in the draft. So he could be an interesting one as time goes on. Okay, let's move on to number two. Again, a player we've talked about a lot, and that's Justin Robidas. Robidas, as we had mentioned last time, had an 18-game stretch from December 5 to January 22, where he had 16 goals and 11 assists. So he's a guy that when he turns it up, he's deadly. He sits right now in 57 games. He's got 57 points, so he's in seventh in the AHL as we sit here today. So he's continuing his fine play. What did we see with Justin Robidas in February?
Yeah, he's just continuing to do what he does. He's a really, really good AHL player at this point. He's probably a little too good for the AHL and probably good enough to be a fourth line guy at the NHL level. But
Right.
the Canes just have so many of them. So, but he's been really good. The injury this past weekend kind of stinks. I don't know how long he's going to be out for, but obviously he didn't play last night. But yeah, he's just been really, really good doing everything that the Wolves really need him to do, and I'm happy for him.
Yeah, and I know that when you chatted with Spiros Anastas, and I did as well, he was very bullish on Robidas, and also really thought that Robidas was an incredibly intelligent player, very knowledgeable guy, studied the game, studied the other teams. He was a player that was really taking a hard look at how he should play and continue to get better. So, very impressive comments from Spiros for sure. Yeah, I think if you look at what McKean said, they said Robidas is another offensive-minded, undersized Canes forward, so the competition for ice time will be fierce. So yeah, that's the tough situation, unfortunately, as we've talked about so many times with Robidas. But boy, he when he's on the ice, he's making things happen, whether it's with Chicago or with the Kings. I'm really excited about number one because this guy has really come back to play. He had a tough season last year. We talked a lot about that earlier this year too, Nick, and he seems to be just continuing to play extremely well. In fact, in his last 5 games, he's got 6 points, so he's really getting it done right now. And that's Felix Unger Sorum. What did we see with Felix last month?
Yeah, he needed to step up and kind of take over for what Nadeau had kind of left off with the injuries, and so he's been pretty solid in the role. There's just so much to. People are always going to be a little more apprehensive because he's a slightly undersized playmaking wing that doesn't shoot the puck that often, but he's also the archetype of player that Canes fans really haven't seen, with the ability with the puck on his sticks, and somebody like Teuvo Teravainen. He's just
Oh, right.
unbelievably good with the puck on his stick, being able to make plays. And that it's just something that they haven't had in a while, and I would fully expect him to have his NHL debut at the end of this year, and you can easily say he's fully earned it just because of the turnaround that he's had from last year into this year.
Yeah, and Darren York said this about him. He said, I think what we're seeing is the natural progression with Felix. If you look at how he performed at the World Junior Championship, and this was over a year ago, you saw a player who was consistently able to use his body to defend a check, and then his elite hockey sense took over to quickly cycle through progressions. So again, took him a little longer to find his way, and I know we also heard from Spiros Anastas that one of the things about Felix is he is getting stronger, and that's a key area they've got him focused on. They want him to get stronger. They want him to be able to play the boards more, and to use that great vision and his hockey IQ, as you and I have discussed, is off the charts. So yeah, he's outstanding, having a great year. Again, he's now up to 54 points in 61 games, and he's sitting at 14th in the AHL. So he's right in the mix, and this is an outstanding rebound season for Felix. So that's the top five. Let's go on to some honorable mentions. And we've talked about this gentleman before, and that's Philip Ekberg. And Ekberg was drafted, as you might recall, right at the end of the draft, basically, a couple of years ago. And he's a guy that's trying to find his way, still playing with the Ottawa 67s in the OHL. Darren York said he's a guy that can score off the rush. He's got a dangerous shot, but at the same time, can make you miss with his skills. What have we been seeing with Philip?
Yeah, he's been good. Honestly, I think I wanted a little bit more for him, seeing as he is playing in the OHL and he's been getting a lot of good ice time. So I probably wanted a little bit more for him, but overall, it was a really solid year for him. I'm really interested to see how he does in the playoffs, because I think that's going to be kind of telling for how he's going to be able to adapt to a quicker, more highly physical game at the next level. So I'm interested to see how he's going to be able to handle the playoffs for Ottawa.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And again, so far this year, he's got 46 points in 59 games. So he's having a better season, and certainly will have his best season in the Ontario Hockey League when he wraps up this year, which is great. The next guy is a player again that we've really been excited about. Third rounder in 2025, drafted number 67, 6'3", almost 200 pounds. Man, Kervin Limatov. Seems like you're talking about Kervin all the time. What did we see from him?
Yeah, he's been good. Timur Cole's been kind of called up to the KHL for the past few weeks, so he's kind of had to step up. And pre-injury, he was doing it. He looked really good. Offense, he was moving the puck in transition a lot. Just looked really solid. The defense is still a work in progress, and I know people are really hyping it up and really hyping him up and wanting him, like, seeing how quickly he can get to North America. But I'm going to caution you now. He still needs work, and Dynamo Moscow's probably got a plan for him going forward, because he's 18 or just turned 19. He's still super young, so I think we just need to be really patient with him. But the signs and the stuff that he has showed this year is really good.
One thing I just want to mention from Darren York on Limatov, because he was really high on Limatov. He said, a strong skater, great reach. Rarely do you see sort of Russian defensemen like that be aggressive, getting up in the play, sealing, and flushing down in the neutral zone. And what he further went on to say was, hey, we knew he was going to be a player, and we decided after we had moved down in some trading in the draft, we wanted to move back up. So they did some kind of interesting machinations to get back into a position where they could get Limatov. They really wanted him that much. So, yeah, he's someone we're going to watch very closely, and I know you're all over Kervin Limatov. That's great, Nick. The next gentleman we talked about as well, and, quite the story on this guy, because I've mentioned a number of times that when he was drafted in that third round, 94th and 23, boy, there were so many people that thought he was going to be drafted higher. Like he was a guy that a lot of folks actually thought he would be drafted in that first round. I think the challenge again, smaller player, 5'9", 175 pounds. But I'm talking about Jaden Perron, and of course he's lighting it up with Michigan. What do you see?
Yeah, the move to Michigan has been really beneficial for his career because he's exploded in points. He has a new career high. His ice time's been really good because he's been on the top line most of the time. And most interesting to me, anyways, is that he's been quarterbacking their number one power play unit, which is
Wow.
something that forwards don't get the opportunity to do that often. So it's really good to see that. And, in the Big Ten championship game, he kind of showed why he does that. He was able to take it straight from the blue line into three Ohio State players and just easily scored. It was a really nice goal, and it was something that, you hadn't seen a ton from Perron. So it's nice to see the progression start to come through. And yeah, it's really nice for Perron because he's been a big part of the number one team in the country. And I'm interested to see how far Michigan goes in the tournament.
Well, and we had talked about his opportunity at North Dakota. I think when Jackson Blake left there, they thought, boy, this guy's going to pick it up and run with it, and unfortunately, it didn't happen. So it's great to see Michigan. Do you think it's coaching? Do you think it's system? What do you think it is?
Probably system, if I had to bet. I just also sometimes think things don't work out, and sometimes there are better situations elsewhere. So
Yeah. So anyway, good news on Jaden. Good, great to see him making some progress as well. A gentleman, again, you've talked about a number of times, and we continue to wonder what his future is going to be, and that's Stanislav Yarovoy, playing with Kimmich in the VHL. Yarovoy is a guy that, again, fourth rounder. What are we seeing with him?
he's been really good. It's been very good to see him kind of pick it up as the end of the season come on, and then in the first game of the playoffs, he has 2 goals and an assist, and he just
Ooh.
exploded out of the gate. Last game, he didn't get a point, but he was moved up to the top line because he basically was the team's entire offense. He was moving in transition really well. He was making the right plays with the puck, just doing everything correctly except for like one bad play at the very end of the game, but it really didn't matter at the end of the day. But no, he's been really good, and I'm happy to see him be a playoff performer as well and not just be a guy who can only have some flashes in the regular season. So it's nice to see that.
What do you think his future could be?
Well, he's got another year in Spartak no matter what
Okay.
because he's signed through next year. So
That's right. Okay. Darren York said this about Yarovoy. He said he went through the draft a couple of times and worked his way up this year, playing regular shifts in the KHL, and that's as a youngster. High end skill, high end compete, high end motor. Really, sort of that Carolina prototypical forward. So, sounds like the right kind of guy. Taking a little bit longer. He's 22 now, so that means he would be done his contract at 23. So you have to kind of wonder, unless he has a tremendous year next year, we don't quite know where he could end up. Okay, so that's the honorable mentions, and I think some great ones as usual, Nick. And you're all over this, but I wanted to now move to your 16 thoughts notes recently, and I thought they were really interesting in this regard. Is that we have a number of players who are going to be having their contracts expire with their Russian teams, wondering what they're going to do in other parts of the world as well. And you did quite a detailed analysis of that, and I thought it would be interesting to share this with the folks. So let's start with your Russian players, and there's a bunch of them. Kicking it off was Alexander Suryatsky. What's your thought on Suryatsky?
be best for him to stay in the KHL for another year or two. I would much prefer him getting regular KHL time than trying to come to North America as of right now. So
Yeah, and he's still young. He's 19. Another one of these hulking defensemen at 6'4", but he's kind of slender, I guess. He's only 182 pounds, so he's not that heavy. He could do some growing while he's at it over in Russia, so that's good. Alexander Pelovin, another blue liner. He's been around for a while. What do you think about Pelovin?
he's going to be a good KHL VHL defenseman for his career.
Okay. So again, another player that we shouldn't expect to see anytime soon in North America, Timur Mukanov, and I've talked about him a few times, and I really like Mukanov. Again, a smallish player, 5'9", 158, 20 years old. What do you think about Mukanov?
I mean, I think he could work in North America, but I also think he probably just ends up kind of like Alexander Passion,
Yeah.
where he's just undersized and it might not work in North America. So I think he's just going to stay in Russia. So
I think that's probably reasonable. Alexander Rykov, though, is somebody we've talked about a number of times. Another gentleman that was a fourth rounder. He's 20 years old now, so age is good. He's had some good runs, but a lot of injury problems. What are you thinking about with Rykov?
this one is probably more interesting to me just because he did just have a really nice KHL season where he set career highs. And through the first two games in the playoffs, he's been scratched, healthy scratched, for guys that haven't been as good as he has been this season. So they brought him over last year for development camp, which I thought was interesting. And
Right.
yeah, I think that's going to be one that I might look at a little more closely.
Okay, cool. Now, someone else you've certainly talked about enough or a lot in different situations to keep us tuned in on Fyodor Avramov. Now, Avramov, again, he's a big player, 6'3", almost just under 200 pounds. He's a guy that folks say can really shoot the puck and do some cool things. What are you seeing with his future?
Yeah, another guy that they brought over last year for Dev Camp, and me and myself and Matt were both really impressed with what we saw because he was a 19-year-old and he was doing some things a 19-year-old shouldn't be able to do, and that size is really good. And as we've seen the past 2 years, is that Sochi is really not giving him any sort of real opportunity besides maybe a run of 4 or 5 games, and I wouldn't be entirely shocked if by next year he's playing in Chicago.
It's interesting. One of the challenges that the Canes have with some of these players, of course, is they're just not getting the playing time at the level that they want them to be playing to continue to develop their game. And that's why I think we've seen some of these players coming over as younger players, some of them even at 19 years old. And we saw the same thing as they when they signed Ivan Ryabkin, again, very young player to be playing in the AHL this year. And of course, he's moved to Charlottetown. But I think you're onto something. I think that some of these players are going to find their way across the ocean. Timur Cole, again, a defenseman we like a lot, big guy. He's been having a tremendous season alongside Kerben Limatov, but has now been recalled to the KHL. What are you thinking about with Timur?
It's kind of ridiculous that he was playing MHL games at this point in his career. I mean, his time on ice average was over 2 minutes a night, better than anybody else in
Yeah.
the MHL this year. He was almost a point per game defenseman, and he barely got KHL time this year. And since they don't have a VHL team, he should have been playing in the VHL at this point, but just couldn't because they don't have a VHL team. So again, this is another one I wouldn't be shocked if he's playing in North America next year just because of the situations kind of surrounding it. Yeah, and right now he's getting healthy scratched for Dynamo Moscow in the KHL playoffs. So I'm hoping he plays for their MHL team in the playoffs. They'll start playing probably next week. Just have to wait for some other series to get over. But yeah, it's kind of a weird situation with Cole.
Well, he saw some ice last year on SKA, correct? In the KHL alongside Alexander
When
Nikishin.
when
So,
Nikishin was hurt, he
yeah,
was the guy that they kind of plugged in to
right.
play when he was out. And then he still was getting seventh man time for a lot of it. So
Yeah. But I thought once he kind of started cutting his teeth in the KHL, he'd probably stick around. But it hasn't worked out quite the same this year. So yeah, he might be best served to head across the ocean. And him and Limitov they're both capable defensemen, as you've mentioned a number of times, Nick. And I think boy, they with the right kind of grooming, they've got a real future for sure. So we'll keep an eye on Timur Cole. Alexander Pravilov is a guy I've been interested in for a long time. He's got a pretty nice package. He checks in at 6 feet, 205 pounds. He was a third rounder. Pravilov was a guy a lot of folks thought could play. What do you think about Alexander?
it kind of sucks that he's had so many injuries in this point in his career. He's had multiple KHL stints that have just been cut short because of injuries, and it really sucks. This has probably been the best form of Alexander Paravelov so far, but I don't really know how they're going to handle it or kind of what they view it as. So, seeing as he's already 22, I'm leaning on the side of he'll probably just stay in Russia for the foreseeable future. But I've been wrong before, so I wouldn't be shocked. But I think personally, it's probably Russia.
Yeah, he's had a pretty good year this year. He's in 58 games with Metallurg. He's got 20 goals and 14 assists. So it's a better year for him. It's probably his first year in a long time he's actually played much. As you say, he's been injured so darn much. It's insane. But he's a guy that's got the right kind of package. He's got a lot of skill. So we'll see where that one goes. And then wrapping up the Russian players with expiring contracts was someone who was talked about earlier, Yegor Velmakin.
Yeah, I Matt and I talk about this a lot, just because the goalie situation for the Hurricanes in North America, outside the NHL, and I guess in the NHL, is right now the only goalie that they have signed through next year is Ruslan Hajayev. Other than that,
Ah,
every other goalie is expected to be a free agent. So I've been in the camp of, he's had good KHL runs and he had a really nice year in the VHL. So I wouldn't be opposed to giving him just a chance in North America, just a 1 year deal, because that's what the ELC age limit would be. Just see what he does. But at the same point, he is 23 now. So
right.
it's kind of on the older side. But again, it doesn't hurt to give a guy that you drafted a try. But again, he's 23, so I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, tough one. We'll have to see how that plays out. When we talk about goaltenders moving to other parts of Europe, another goalie in a similar situation is Jakob Vondras. Vondras playing in Czechia too this year. We've talked about him before as well. What do you think the future holds for Vondras?
It's kind of the same boat as Velmakin. He's I think he's 21 right now. He
Yes,
might be 22. I'm not 100% sure,
he's
but
20. He is 21. Yeah,
so like his rights expire May 1st, May 15th, June 1st, something like that. Like if you want to give him a chance because it's a drafted guy, you can give him a chance. At the same point, if you don't, I mean, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but if I'm picking out of the two, I'd probably lean Velmakin because he has top end professional experience at like the KHL comparatively to Vondras, who,
yes.
struggled in the OHL a little bit and then had a much better year this year in the second Czechia league. But you also probably wanted to see him get more time in the top league if you wanted to sign him eventually.
Yeah, I remember when they drafted Vondras, they were pretty high on him. And as you say, he did play in North America for a year, played junior hockey in North America as well. Yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. A couple of other guys in Europe that you mentioned, I suspect neither one will be showing up anytime soon. Niels Juntorp, he came in one of the deals for the Canes. Uh, Nothing there.
It is kind of funny because I think he's top 10 in all Canes prospects scoring right now. If you go to Elite Prospects and sort, I think he's top 10. But no. I can confidently say he will not be getting a contract.
Yeah, and the other one, and we've talked about him last month, was Simon Forsmark. And of course, he just signed a 3 year deal with Timra in Sweden. So he's not coming over anytime soon either. So those guys clearly not expected to come to North America. So again, some interesting ones that have potential of coming, but for the most part, I don't think we'll see too many of these folks heading our way anytime soon. Now, we also want to talk just for a minute about the college side, just to see what the disposition of those guys might be. Of course, Jaden Perron, we talked about a few minutes ago, heading back next year to Michigan.
That is what I would assume as of March 26th. That's just kind of what I'm thinking. I haven't seen anything that tells me otherwise. So, and with Michigan probably losing a lot of guys, they might want to keep him.
Right.
So that is just my assumption, is that more than likely he stays.
Okay, and Justin Poirier, of course, just finishing up his first year in college hockey. He had a big. So far he's got 18 goals, 11 assists in 27 games. What do you think about Justin? He'll head back, of course, right?
If he had a fully healthy year and if he stayed healthy throughout all the games, that one I wouldn't have been shocked if he did sign a contract.
Ah, okay.
But with the injury, I at this point fully expect him to go back. Uh, I wouldn't be shocked if he transferred, just because, and the only reason why I say that is because the modern day NCAA and
Yeah.
what NIL has become has become so volatile in terms of college sports. But at that same point, he would probably be the go-to guy for Maine next year. Like he would be
Yeah.
their top dog. So I also wouldn't be shocked if he stayed.
Yeah, and he's had a great run. I mean, every time whatever league he goes in, it seems like he lights it up. So it was exciting to see him do the same thing in college hockey. And I believe he had a hat trick when, if I recall correctly, one of the games he had a hat trick as well. So,
Yeah.
and of course, the big name that we're following very, very, very closely is Charlie Serrato. Do you think he'll head back to Penn, or will he come to the Canes?
So this is a fun one because I'm still on the fence. If you are a Charlie Serrato fan, like most of us are, you are going to probably be in the minority and rooting against Penn State coming up Friday, just
Right.
because there's really not a lot for Serrato to prove at the college level. And with the thinking of him being drafted in the second round as a double overager, the Canes probably think they can get him signed quicker than others. I'm not saying he is going to sign because that would be reckless of me, and I have no information that he will or will not. At the same point, I would not be entirely shocked if that was the case. If Penn State were to lose, I mean, Friday is probably the earliest, but they wouldn't. If he signs, you wouldn't see anything until probably next week. But if you like Serrato a lot and want to see him go to the next level, you are probably rooting against Penn State right now.
Yeah, and he was a little older in the draft, so I think you're onto something. They probably didn't expect him to stay very long in college ranks, and before he went down, he was pushing Gavin McKenna for the points leadership, of course, on Penn State, and Gavin has had a tremendous year as it turns out. But boy, Serrato was right there and was playing great hockey. So. I'm going to be like you, waiting to see if maybe Charlie signs a deal to join the Chicago Wolves for the rest of this year and maybe get a shot at the Canes next year. So that'll be interesting to see. And again, as a centerman, there's always a need with the Canes for centers, so he's in the right position for sure.
Also, one thing about that is I had some yesterday or like really late last night when they asked Penn State players who they model their game after, and
Right.
Serrato said Sam Bennett,
Sam
and then
Bennett.
there were genuine people mad that he said Sam Bennett. I started just looking at my phone in disbelief because could you do people not want a scoring center who is a pain in the ass? Do people not want that? I feel as if that would be like the number one thing you want. So I don't quite get the pushback to that one. And to be fair to Serrato, I've come up with the term dog as just like he's going to do things that he's going to do things that get under your skin. And he is very successful in doing that. So again, I see the comparison. And I don't understand why people will get mad at it.
Well, considering that Sam Bennett was the top player of the playoffs last year, I don't think it would be too bad at all to have someone that mirrors Sam Bennett in the Canes lineup. I'm with you 100%. I think it would be great to have a feisty player with the skill level that certainly that Sam Bennett shows. And I know when Bennett was available initially as a possible free agent, of course, the Caniacs were very interested, and I'm sure the Canes were as well. In any case, while we're on to the NCAA, I just wondered if there are any players that are floating around in free agency that you've seen that might be of interest to the Canes. I know there's probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 that have their names floating around right now. Some that are getting more attention than others. If we look back, there's guys like Colin Graff that came as free agents some years ago. Graff's going to score 20 goals with the Sharks this year. So you can find the odd nugget out there. I'm wondering if you've seen any players that have jumped out at you.
So the thing that I would point out is the Canes haven't really done that. The most recent one, to my knowledge, was Yaniv Peretz
Oh,
in whenever that was. It's been a couple years, and then before that, it was the other Cotton brother besides the one they draft. I don't
you're
remember if
right.
it was David or Jason, but it was one of the
It
Cotton
was
brothers.
David Cotton, I think. Yes, yes.
So it's been a long time for the Canes to have done that, and for a guy like Colin Graff, and I know people are going to point out TJ Hughes this year with
Yes,
Michigan.
yes,
They, at least with Graf, he picked the opportunity that would best get him to the NHL as fast as
yeah,
possible.
yeah.
For TJ Hughes, it's probably going to be the same thing. The only real thought that I had was maybe a goalie. So I thought about Josh Kotai, who I
Okay,
believe just signed with the Islanders.
okay.
I know Alex Tracy, but I doubt they sign anybody. I would honestly be shocked if they did.
Yeah, yeah. I just thought it'd be interesting to check in on that too, Nick, because it's there'll be a lot of discussion with some of these guys, and yeah, as you say, T.J. Hughes, his name's all over the place, and a few of the other guys as well. So a lot of interest with some of these players. I don't think historically, and I remember back in the day, the Toronto Maple Leafs signed some big players, and there were all kinds of ballyhoo with some of the players that have been signed over the years. I think what's Livingston was signed by Nashville, and there's a bunch of guys that you can think back in the day. None of them have really ever mounted to much. So
It's more just like AHL bodies, in complete
yeah,
honesty. Like a lot of the guys, not Chicago, Toronto has signed. Just thinking about it, like Luke Hames was a big one that people were pointing out, and Jacob Quillen from that Quinnipiac
yeah,
team.
Jacob Quillen.
They've just been AHL people for the most part. So a lot of the college free agents kind of top out as like high end AHL guys or low end NHL guys. So
Yeah,
and realistically, the Canes would really only have a need for the top end AHL guys that aren't taking up vet spots. So that's again
yeah,
another reason why I'm not putting a whole lot of thought into the NCAA free agency right now.
yeah. And I mean, you think about the fact they didn't sign someone like a Josh Nadeau, who they know he's been into development camp. They know who he is, and obviously the connection with Bradley is huge. If they didn't choose to sign someone like that, you kind of wonder if they would look at anybody else. So I'm kind of with you. I don't expect we'll hear any signings anytime soon. And I know there are some European players as well. I saw somebody had mentioned Patrick Pistola. He was a draft pick of the Canes.
Hey man, and more power to them if they mention them. The only so with Europe, I only got like there's a couple guys in Russia that have kind of been rumored around the NHL for a few years. I know this year's bigger name is Vitaly Pinchuk with Dynamo
Yes,
Minsk,
I did see that.
and again, Canes really don't have a need just because he would be a bottom six guy, and they have about 30 of them right now. So there's just no point. And so, but that is probably the place I would be most interested in looking for AHL guys next year because they've done it the past few years. If you look at Yuhi Yaska and
Yes,
more recently Gavin Bayreuther,
yes.
they like to get Euros as AHL guys. So I wouldn't be shocked if that's the case again.
Yeah, and in the case of Bayreuther, and I think they've done it a few times, they've brought folks over that were, previously had a cup of coffee in the NHL and then went to play in Europe and then came back and were, really, I think, solid additions for the farm team as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a veteran or two that decide, hey, they don't necessarily want to play in Europe next year and wouldn't mind playing with the Wolves. And the Canes will have to definitely add some players to the Wolves. Of course, we do know, interestingly enough, Noel Gunler is heading back to Sweden, it appears. And
Yeah, I
he,
can't believe I broke that. That was weird.
yeah, I think that's fantastic, and I wanted to mention that. And he had an incredible overtime winner last night, so he's going to go out in style, I guess. And actually, he's been playing quite well in recent weeks, and I don't know if it's because he knows he's got a nice contract in his jeans or what the deal is.
I would honestly say it's more due to opportunity with
I'm
Nadeau and
sure.
now Robida out.
Yeah. No, I'm sure it is. I was just throwing that out there as well.
No,
No,
I get
and
you.
again, he's a guy that he's figured it out. Second rounder wasn't going to make the Canes. There's no play that he was going to have there, and frankly, it's a good situation for him to head back home. So all good. Okay, so let's just talk about the upcoming month in terms of your vision. What are you looking at to see which players you're going to keep an eye on as we look forward?
So it's a lot of playoffs. KHL is fully underway. The MHL will get started in a few, probably another week, because a lot of the MHL guys are higher level. Like their teams are just overall better. So they got to wait a little bit. Other than that, mainly just the Wolves in college. It's kind of just my season for watching, these prospects is kind of winding down,
Yes.
which is a blessing and a curse because
Yeah.
obviously, it's been a very long season with a lot of ups and downs. So I'm ready to kind of get toward the end of it, see if we get some guys that come over, see what kind of develops with everything, and start prepping for the draft, which is going to be something.
Yeah. Well, this year's draft, again, it's being rumored to be a strong draft. Unfortunately, the Canes are going to be limited in what they can do unless they can make some moves prior to the draft, and of course, they usually do that at the draft to get some additional picks. But as they sit right now, they're a little bit light. They
Yeah,
have a number of rounds they don't even have any picks in, so we'll see.
I feel as if that will drastically change, and you can kind of pencil in that if you personally like a prospect at the end of the first round, I have horrible news to tell you. That first round pick will not be getting used. That will turn into 2 seconds, a
Two
second,
seconds.
third, and something else.
Yes.
It's getting turned into multiple picks.
Oh no, I think you're probably right, and I have to give the crew a lot of credit. They've been able to, of course, manipulate the draft extensively, and have chosen to get volume in the
Yeah, it makes
draft. And yeah,
makes my job a lot more fun. So
well, you're all over it, Nick, and that's the great thing about it, and that's why we're delighted that you spend time with us to bring us up to date on prospects right around the globe, and there are lots of them. One of the things we've talked about in the past is that the Canes are rich in prospects, and they can't keep them all. I mean, there are players that are currently in Chicago, as an example, that we don't know what the future is going to hold for them. They're players that could possibly play in the National Hockey League, but certainly won't get a cup of coffee with the Canes. And so we'll have to see what happens with them. The Wolves, as you mentioned, you're going to be watching them closely. They've had a little bit of a struggle lately. They do have some injuries. They do have some call-ups. I noticed that Charles Alexis, the goal, was recalled to the Canes. So they're going to go through some ups and downs, and I know they're going to be trying to sign some players. They did sign a player that was playing with the Gargoyles, Sean Doyle, who's going to be joining them. So there's some things we'll see there as well. I'll be getting together with Andrew Rinaldi next week, and we'll take a deeper look into what's happening with the Wolves as well. But as always, great to catch up with you on all of the prospects, Nick. And I know we have another month coming up. I think you're wrapping up here pretty soon in terms of the prospect stuff, but we'll certainly try to get together in a month and talk about the top prospects for March and some of the other things you're hearing about prospects around the globe. And it might be that when we get together, some of these players will have headed over for to play with the Wolves or sign a contract or whatever the case is, which is always exciting stuff for us. So maybe Charlie Serrato will show up with the Chicago Wolves. That would be fun. In any case, as I mentioned, thanks so much for joining and bringing us up to date on all the great stuff that's going on with the Canes prospects right around the globe. And for all of you who've been watching or listening, of course, Nick and I are delighted you spent time with us. If you like this episode, please press the like button. If you have any questions or comments for Nick, please leave those in the comments section. And of course, if you want to be alerted of future episodes of Storm Tracker, please press subscribe and the bell buttons, and we'll alert you just as soon as they're available. As always, thanks so much for joining Nick and I, and we'll look forward to getting together with you real soon right here on Storm.